Hello, friends. Welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot, and today we will be discussing the Pope's plans for the United States of America. What plans does the Pope have for the people of this nation? Again, I will be reading from a very good book, very informative book entitled Facts of Faith by Christian Edwardson. This book was published in about the 1940s. It has some very valuable information in regards to the truths of the Bible. So again, and I will be reading much from this book. So again, what are the Pope's plans for the people of the United States? So a letter from the Vatican outlining the plans of Pope Leo XIII respecting the United States was published in the New York Sun of July 11, 1892, and contains the following significant statement. And I have no doubt, dear friends, that the present Pope is in total agreement with Pope Leo XIII, who was Pope back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, somewhere around there. So, this article in the New York Sun of July 11, 1892 states the following: what the Church has done in the past for others, she will now do for the United States. Now, what has the Catholic Church, the papacy, done in the past for other nations? What has she done for other nations in the past that she will now do for the United States? Well, her history is written in blood. Okay? It is full of bloodshed. The papacy was responsible for at least 100 million deaths from 538 AD to 1798 AD. He, continuing on in the article from the New York Sun, he, the Pope, hails in the United States, in the United American States, and in their young and flourishing church, meaning the Catholic Church, the source of new life for Europeans. If the United States succeed in solving the many problems that puzzle us, Europe will follow her example. And that's the end of that quote from the New York Sun of July 11, 1892. How remarkably this coincides with the prophetic prediction. His deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation 13, verse 3. Yes, it is true that, quote, as America, the land of religious liberty, shall unite with the papacy, enforcing the conscience and compelling men to honor the false Sabbath, the people of every country on the globe will be led to follow her example. Testimonies, Volume 6, page 18. This country led the world from despotism to liberty. Yes, our founding fathers, people like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Quincy Adams, John Adams, James Madison, and others, Benjamin Franklin, and all those who fought in the Revolutionary War, led this world from despotism to liberty. And it will lead the way back to despotism. And I hope that all can see that happening today. Only the Pope is not in full control yet. The doctrine of Pope Leo XIII is the doctrine of the Catholic Church, and it is taught in her schools in the United States. One of their textbooks, entitled Manual for Christian Doctrine by a seminary professor, printed by J.J. McVeigh, Philadelphia, 1915, and carrying the sanction of the Catholic censor and the seal of the Church, has this to say concerning the relations of church and state. So this is in the school books in the Catholic schools of that day. All right? So why is the church superior to the state? This is the question that's asked in the textbook. Why is the church superior to the state? Answer, because the end to which the church tends is the noblest of all ends. Question, what right has the Pope in virtue of his supremacy? Answer, the right to annul those laws or acts of government that would injure the salvation of souls or attack the natural rights of citizens. This is hypocrisy to the max, okay? Because the papacy does not care for the salvation of souls. The salvation of souls that they're talking about are people, you're saved in their minds if you are in total submission, mind and body, to the Pope. And they do not care about the natural rights of citizens because they hate our Constitution. The Pope hates our Constitution, which guarantees us civil and religious liberty, liberty of conscience. Question, what then is the principal obligation of the heads of states? The heads of states meaning the presidents, the congressmen, the senators, etc., etc. Okay? What is their, according to the Pope, their principal obligation is to practice the Catholic religion themselves, and as they are in power, to protect and defend it. So the heads of state should practice the Catholic religion themselves, and they should protect it and defend it. The only way that they rightfully could protect it is by following the First Amendment to the Constitution. The government is to protect the rights of its citizens. Whether you're Catholic, Baptist, or Seventh-day Adventist, or Jehovah's Witness, or Mormon, or whoever. Question, has the state the right and the duty to proscribe schism or heresy? Again, let me ask it. Has the state or the government the right and the duty to proscribe schism or heresy? Question, yes, it has the right and the duty to do so. So, if anything that the Pope deems heresy, anything that he deems as heresy, anything that he identifies as heresy, it is the duty of the government to stop that heresy, as they would call it, from being shared with others or propagated. Okay? Question, may the state separate itself from the church? May the state separate itself from the church? Answer, no, because it may not withdraw from the supreme rule of Christ. See, the Pope is saying this as if he were Christ. Because, he believes he stands in the place of God to everyone. So, if the state separates itself from the church, in their minds, they are separating themselves from the supreme rule of Christ. Question, what name is given to the doctrine that the state has neither the right nor the duty to be united to the church to protect it? Interesting answer. This doctrine is called liberalism. It is founded principally on the fact that modern society rests on liberty of conscience and of worship, on liberty of speech and of the press. Now, part of this is correct, okay? Now, the liberalism he's speaking of is not the liberalism that we think of today, okay? It's not the same thing. There was a time when liberalism really was a good thing because, and our founding fathers would say that it is a good thing because it rests on liberty of conscience and of worship, on liberty of speech and of the press. The sad fact of the matter is, dear friends, is that those of us who believe in the separation of church and state are grouped with the people in this country that are communist and socialist and all sort of things like that. And it just simply isn't so. Question, why is liberalism to be condemned? Now let's remember that the liberalism spoken of here is a liberty of conscience and of worship, liberty of speech and of the press. Why is that to be condemned? Answer, because it denies all subordination of the state to the church, the Catholic Church. The Pope is what they mean. Okay? This is why liberalism is to be condemned, because it denies all submission or subordination of the government to the Pope of Rome. So, the writer of this book, Christian Edwardson, we respectfully ask, with such avowed principles taught in Catholic school books, would it be safe to allow Romanized textbooks to be used in our public schools? Pope Paul IV sets forth this same papal doctrine. We read, on February 15, 1559, appeared the bull Quum, I guess it's Quum, Q-U-U-M, ex expolatus officio, of which the most important heads are these. Okay? This is a bull written by Pope Paul IV in 1559. The Pope, quote, the Pope as representative of Christ on earth has complete authority over princes and kingdoms and may judge the same. The Pope, this Pope, I don't care if you're talking about this Pope or Pope John Paul II, whom so many Catholics revere, or Pope Benedict, or any Pope Paul VI, any of these popes, in their minds, they have complete authority over princes and kingdoms, even the President of the United States. Number 2, in that same bull, all monarchs who are guilty of heresy or schism are irrevocably deposed without the necessity of any judicial formalities. This is you're guilty until proven innocent. They don't have to go through any necessary judicial formalities. If they say that you are a heretic, that's it, you're done. Talking about monarchs, including presidents. Notice, they are deprived forever of their right to rule and fall under sentence of death. I had if you watched it, there was some time ago, I had a presentation in which I showed, it was a brief summary of a book. I can't remember John Phelps. I can't remember his first name. He's the writer of the book Vatican Assassins. Just look up Vatican Assassins, okay? And I read a summary of that book, which showed that it was the Pope of Rome at that time in 1963, which I think was Pope Paul VI, ordered the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Okay, so this bull from February 15, 1559, by Pope Paul IV, it says these monarchs, including the presidents, are deprived forever of their right to rule and fall under sentence of death. And John F. Kennedy opposed the Catholic Church's or the Pope's right to tell them what they should do. If they repent, they are to be confined in a monastery for the term of their life with bread and water as their only fare. So even if that president should repent, he's still going to be confined in a monastery for the term of their life, of his life, with bread and water as their only fare. Number 3, no man is to help an heretical or schismatical prince. The monarch guilty of this sin is to lose his kingdom in favor of rulers obedient to the Pope. So, yeah, Kennedy would not obey the Pope. He said he wouldn't. He said, just because I'm a Catholic doesn't mean I'm going to obey the Pope. I'm the President of the United States. And he shouldn't obey the Pope. because we have liberty of conscience in this. We have a separation of church and state in this country. And he lost his kingdom because he disobeyed the Pope. Later papal encyclicals show the same attitude toward Protestants. Here is a sample from the encyclical of Pope Pius X. Speaking of the Reformation of the 16th century, it says, that tumult of rebellion. So, for many decades now, if you look up the Protestant Reformation, whether on the internet or whether you're talking about just the old books, okay, for decades now, the Protestant Reformation is not called a Reformation, it is called a revolt, a rebellion, against the Pope of Rome. That tumult of rebellion and that perversion of faith and morals they call Reformation, and themselves reformers, but in truth they were corrupters, for undermining with dissensions and wars the forces of Europe. They paved the way for the rebellions and the apostasy of modern times, in which were united and renewed in one onslaught those three kinds of conflict hitherto separated, from which the Church has always issued victorious. The bloody conflicts of the first ages, then the internal pests of heresies, and finally, under the name of evangelical liberty, a vicious corruption and a perversion of discipline unknown perhaps in medieval times. And that comes from an encyclical letter of our most holy Lord Pius X, so-called, quoted in supplement to the tablet, page 26. Okay. So, there you have it. The Pope's plans for the United States is to take complete control. Is this what we want? Is that what Americans want? Do we not see through the Vatican's pretensions, his hypocrisies? I hope and pray that many are awakened as a result of this presentation. We are nearing the end of the world, when Jesus Christ will appear in the clouds of heaven and bring down and defeat all rebellion against His authority, the God of heaven, His authority. I pray that day comes soon. And if you agree with this presentation, then by all means, tap that like button at the bottom of this video, so that this presentation can be sent far and wide to those who are hungering for the bread of life. And if you have any questions or comments, then yes, please post them at the bottom of this video. And if you haven't subscribed, then by all means do so as soon as possible. We thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth, and we hope that you have a good day in the Lord.